Hi, everybody. So we are so excited. We are here to talk Oscar nominations, and they just this week on Tuesday they announced the latest group of Oscar nominations, and my friend Conrado and I are here to talk about it and see if we agree, disagree with the various nominations. And so, Conrado, do you want to say hi?
Look out, because here I come, and I'm
Yeah.
marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
Very poetic, very moving. All right.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about each of the best picture nominees in a little more detail, and then we'll just go through the other categories more quickly. So I've seen 8 out of 9 of the best picture nominees. I've not seen The Shape of Water yet. And you've seen all of them, correct?
I have.
Okay. So this will be fun.
Although some of them I wish I hadn't. No, just kidding.
I agree.
All right.
So the first one we'll talk about is Call Me by Your Name. And what was your sort of reaction to this movie?
Call Me by Your Name is a movie that I want to say off the top that I would like to see again. And it's just the thing is that it's here in New York. It's playing in a couple of theaters that are not very convenient for me to get to. So that's why I haven't seen it again. But I saw it the first time at the New York Film Festival, which was in a way a great way to watch the movie because it was in this huge screen with great quality projection. The director was there, Armie Hammer, and Timothée Chalamet.
Oh, cool.
I should say Oscar nominee Timothée Chalamet was there. Also there, the love of my life, Dakota Johnson, whom I walked in the hallway.
Oh, nice.
So that was nice, and it looked beautiful, but it was a 9:30 p.m. screening, and it's a pretty long movie. I think it's over 2 hours, and so I was a little tired. It was after a full day of work. So I feel like I got a little impatient with it, and I didn't fully connect with the romance because of that. So that's why I would like to see it again.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, Call Me by Your Name, I have it at number 18 on my ranking, so pretty high for the year. I think it's a beautiful movie. I think it has a great heart to it. I think you can tell that James Ivory is involved in this. It has his kind of reminded me a lot of Room with a View, which is a favorite movie of mine. I love it. And the just that sense of like European grandeur,
Summer.
kind of
Yeah.
that feeling. And I thought it was a really good film. The way it uses music is great. And the ending I think is moving. My only flaws with the movie, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. My only flaw with the movie is that I did find it a little hard to relate to. These people spending the whole summer in Italy, like kind of lounging about and whatever. Like it was a little hard for me to relate to that. And also,
it's hard not to feel jealous.
Yes, very jealous. Yeah. So it's a good movie. Like I said, I have it in my top 20, so I do like it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. It's not in my top 10, but it's close. And I'm a big fan of the director, Luca Guadagnino. If someone, I think his previous movies, I Am Love and The Bigger Splash, are also really great.
Ooh, I need to see. I've really wanted to see I Am Love, especially. So, okay. Yeah. So next up, we have The Darkest Hour. And for me, this movie had one of the best makeup jobs I've seen in a long time. That was very impressive on Gary Oldman. And I thought that it was fine, but it was kind of boring for me, if I'm honest. It was sort of slow. And I think that it was a little bit, it hurt it a little bit that I think that John Lithgow in The Crown was a much more interesting Churchill to me and much more like nuanced, and I don't know, just liked it better. And so I don't know, it wasn't that high on The Darkest Hour. I have it at, I don't hate it, but I have Darkest Hour at 68 in my ranking for the year. I gave it 3 stars out of 5.
Sorry, I fell asleep because you were talking about Darkest Hour, the most boring movie that ever existed. Just out of curiosity, how many movies did you watch overall so we can get a sense of where they rank?
Yeah, 142.
Oh, wow.
2017.
That's a lot of movies.
It was a lot. Yep.
So Darkest Hours is 68. 68. So that's, mediocre, which I think is appropriate.
Yeah.
I love the director, Joe Wright. I've loved his previous movies. I love Pride and Prejudice. I love Anna Karenina. Hannah with Saoirse Ronan is a really cool action movie. I just don't know about this topic. Winston Churchill is not a guy that I'm particularly interested in, and I actually would be interested in seeing a movie about Churchill that is not about him being heroic and the great prime minister, but rather about the stuff that he did that is a little bit more, let's say, problematic or dark, like his treatment of the colonies and things like that, right? I feel like there is a lot of lionizing of him and not enough questioning.
Fair enough.
Yeah. This is a good looking movie, though. I think the cinematography, which it got a nomination for by Bruno Del Bonell, is really great. There's a scene in, I think it's in Churchill's bedroom or in a room in his house that has a very particular lighting when the king comes visit him, and it looks very pale and weird. I thought it's a good looking movie.
Yeah, it was good looking. And Dunkirk. So Dunkirk, I thought to me, it reminded me of back where I grew up. They have these Civil War reenactments where you just like go and you participate in reenacting a battle. So there's not like a plot. It's just like this battle. And this I felt like this was kind of a reenactment in a movie, and it was really cool to me. It's not the kind of movie that I would want to get on DVD or Blu-ray, but it was such a cool experience at the theater, I thought, and so immersive. And so I really liked Dunkirk. I have it at number 12, so I have it pretty high. I really liked it. I thought it was cool.
So my mom saw Dunkirk, I think, a couple of days ago, and I went to her house yesterday, and she says, I saw this movie, one of the nominees, and I don't think I get it. I don't think I know what the movie's about. So I asked her, okay, what did you get out of it? Like, what do you think it's about? And she described Dunkirk perfectly. Like, it's a reenactment of this battle, and they were trapped, and then they have to wait until they are rescued and whatever. And by the end, I was like, you got it completely. And then she was like, but what's the point? And I was like, there's no point. That's the point, what you just said. I think a lot of people are struggling with that part of Dunkirk.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen it only once in the theater. And I think that as an experience in the theater, it was worth it. It's not a movie that has stayed with me a lot and doesn't seem... It seems less impressive to me than the further I get from actually having seen it. So I'm kind of in the middle on Dunkirk, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Fair enough. I can understand that reaction. And yeah, I can understand that. So, okay. So next we have Get Out. And this little movie, this is like the little movie that could, that just kept chugging along. And the first time I saw it, I was like, well, because I always like to see when I think about a movie, I said, did it do what it was trying to do? Did it achieve what it was? Because I'm obviously not going to compare some movie that's designed for toddlers to like, some horror movie or whatever. It's like, does it do what it's... And so first I was like, well, it wasn't scary. And so I gave it a B+ originally. And then I just kept thinking about it. It was just like in the back of my head, like, oh, that auction scene, that, or the, what was the sunken place about? And just kept thinking about it. And so for me, I raised it up to I kept raising it up, and I really love it. It's actually my top. It's the only one of these nominees that I really love, and I have it at number 9 of my ranking for the year.
Yeah. I also love Get Out. Um, I'm actually there. I'm happy comparing this lineup of nominees to last year because last year I didn't really have any movie that I truly loved in major contention at the
Mm-hmm.
Oscars, and this year I have at least 4 that
Oh,
I feel very
wow.
passionate about. So I'm really happy about that, and Get Out is definitely one of them. We had an exchange on Twitter in which you said that you felt like the Oscar nominees were all movies that were not going to be might not be remembered in 10 years from now.
Uh-huh.
And I have a couple. I disagree with that statement, but you know that already. And I think there are a couple of Best Picture nominees that are going to be remembered, and I think one of them is definitely Get Out. I feel like it was just the like movie of the year, like maybe not the most the one that made most money, although it's perhaps the most successful considering how little it cost to make and how much money it got. um but definitely in terms of the one that got people talking for the whole year, I feel like I have heard people talk about Get Out every single month of the year since it
Yeah.
came out. And it's just a movie that everyone had to see and everyone wanted to see and everyone was excited about one way or the other. And I think it will be remembered as a sort of a, because it serves as such a great time capsule for this year,
Mm-hmm.
um, just in so many ways,
Yeah.
in America. So I think that's one that's
Yeah.
going to live for a long time.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I'd say I loved last year because I loved Lion and I loved Moonlight and Hidden Figures and Hell or High Water. I loved.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, last year was a really great year
Yeah,
of nominees. So
yeah,
yeah, we'll just have
yeah.
in there. But
Although, yeah, although I mean, loving the movie doesn't really, I mean, um, doesn't really guarantee that it's going to be remembered in 10 years
yeah,
because I think movies from last year like Moonlight will definitely be remembered, but I think there are some memorable ones in this lineup as well.
yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. Okay, so let's talk about Lady Bird. And so I like coming of age movies are typically not my favorite. And I find that a lot of times the characters, like I was a grumpy teenager like everybody else, but I wasn't mean. And I feel like a lot of these, like Edge of 17 and sometimes in Lady Bird, like the characters are just like cruel. They're cruel to each other and their family. And that's kind of hard for me sometimes. But Lady Bird, I really did enjoy. I thought that particularly the first half was great. I really loved her relationship with the Lucas Hedges character. I love him as an actor. I think as the boyfriend, I think he's a really strong young talent. I really like him, and I love Saoirse Ronan. I I loved her in Brooklyn so much, and so and I thought Laurie Metcalf was great as the mother. I almost wish sometimes that the movie had been about her because I thought she was so interesting.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed it and thought it was good, despite my feelings of coming of age movies sometimes. And I have Lady Bird at 30 in my ranking.
All right. That's not bad for 140. Lady Bird is one of my favorite movies of the year. I absolutely love it. I've seen it twice, and I want to see it a third time. I agree with everything you said about Saoirse Ronan and Laurie Metcalf. They're both amazing, and I think it's just such a well-written movie and such a generous movie that's interested in so many characters and their points of view. I I do like coming of age movies as a genre. I feel like coming of age movies about teenage girls resonate with me a lot. I and like you, I feel like I was a pretty mean teenager, at least with like my family. So that part of the story also resonates with me a lot, and I see a lot of it.
Cool.
Um, and that I don't know. I feel like even though Lady Bird is such a um, hard character in so many ways, I do identify a lot with her, and just this, I don't know, I feel like teenagers are dumb and teenagers are mean. sometimes, and that feeling of sort of feeling like you're better than everyone else, but also worse than everyone else at the same time. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It all spoke to me. I
Yeah.
love the movie.
Cool. Yeah, it's a good film. Okay, so next we have Phantom Thread, and it's Paul Thomas Anderson. This is a beautiful movie with great performances for sure. And the music is great. Costumes are amazing. And overall, I liked it. I just didn't love it. I didn't really like either of the characters. I wasn't emotionally engaged by it. I don't know. I just didn't love it. And so for me, I have it at 66 in my ranking because it was so well made and it was so well acted. But
so this is actually the other movie that I think, if not for Get Out, might be the one that people remember and still talk about 10 years from now.
Interesting.
Because I saw it the first time and I didn't know what to expect. And I feel like the movie is so strange and unique in so many ways, and in the way it unfolds, that while I was watching it, I was wondering where this is going. What's the point of this movie? I'm not sure about this, even though I was enjoying the performances and, like you said, the costumes and the music and everything. And by the end, I feel like it clicks together, and it is then that I understood what kind of the point of the movie was, and I liked it and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it again a couple of days ago, and watching it from the start, knowing where it goes at the end, it like opened itself up to me, and it became such a fascinating movie. And I feel like these three characters played by Daniel Day-Lewis, Vicky Krieps, and Leslie Manville are so interesting, and they're so frustrating and unlikable in so many ways, but they're also like just the way they behave and the things that they do seem so human and contradictory, but in a very truthful way. I don't know. I feel like it's a very, very interesting movie.
Yeah.
I described it as like the art house version of 50 Shades of Grey, because I feel like it has taken that sort of plot about a like sort of toxic relationship in which the two people have to negotiate to meet each other's standards, but in a very glossy, very prestige kind of way, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
also very funny, I thought. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is just such a fussy character, and the things he says about the tea and the interruption and the toast is just like, how can this man exist?
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. I did like that. I laughed a little bit, and yeah, I liked it. I just didn't love it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess all I'm saying is if you're on the fence about it, anyone who's listening, and also you, Rachel,
Okay.
I think a second viewing, I can't guarantee that you're gonna love it, but I think it might be interesting to see it a second time and see what you get out of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So okay. Next we have The Post. And this is interesting because I have to say, going into it, I was like, oh no, this is going to be just sort of an overly messagey movie. You know, it's going to be very heavy handed about, you know, all the things going on right now. And, you know, I that just didn't sound very appealing to me. And so I went in with kind of low expectations, despite it having Streep and Hanks and Spielberg. But I was thoroughly impressed. I was very surprised. I thought to me, it didn't have the quite the emotional heft of Spotlight, which is a movie I really loved. But I thought it was actually pretty tight as far as the editing and engaging, and I was engrossed. And obviously, the performances were good, but not just Streep and Hanks, but Bob Odenkirk and a whole bunch of other people I can't think off the top of my head.
Tracy
But
Letts is really good.
yeah, a lot of good supporting roles, and it was just an engaging story, and it did have some messaging, but it wasn't as heavy-handed as I thought it would be.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I do think it's pretty heavy-handed, but I love it for it. I love The Post, and I'm a huge Steven Spielberg fan. I am really loving his sort of recent movies about sort of politics and government and that sort of thing. And I think The Post fits perfectly in that. I think I just love it so much. I think it's so much fun. It's like, an old-fashioned movie, which is seems to be what he's doing, but in a way that, because of the movies that we get nowadays, feels fresh and like unlike everything else. Um, and I agree with you that the performances are great. I think Meryl Streep is doing amazing work, and I'm one of those people who feel like she hasn't been at the top of her game lately. But I think this is her best work in a long time. I think she's really great. Everyone else in the cast is great. It's such a fun movie. Um,
Yeah.
the filmmaking, especially, it also feels like Spielberg, sort of, because he made the movie so quick after um, he read the script earlier this year, and by the end of the year the movie was out, that he kind of felt a little liberated, because I feel like it's very energetic, more so than his later movies have been.
Yeah. I've not been a fan of his most recent movies. I didn't hate them, but I didn't really like. For me, Bridge of Spies was super overrated. I thought it was very boring. I did not care for it, and I didn't like the BFG very much. And so that's also
Yeah,
going. It's sort of my expectations were kind of muted. And so yeah, I agree with you. It was very it didn't forget. When I say it's not an overly message movie, it didn't forget to be entertaining.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah,
was still fun, and it was still clipped along nicely, and it had fun moments, and it wasn't it didn't have me rolling my eyes at any point, I guess.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, I agree with that.
So I have it at 17 on my ranking, so pretty high.
Okay.
Okay, so next is The Shape of Water. This is the one I haven't seen, so you'll have to tell our viewers or listeners.
Yeah, The Shape of Water. I guess since I'm the only one repping this movie right now, I do want to say that most people that I know and seen it really liked it or love it. Like, all of my roommates love the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and almost all of my friends that have seen it also love it. I'm a little bit on the fence about it. I think Sally Hawkins, who plays the lead character, who's this mute woman who falls in love with sort of like a fish man,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think she's great in the movie. I think her performance is definitely my favorite part, and she very deservedly got nominated. Um, I think the script and the direction uh, are a little sloppy, let's say. The script is very sort of stereotypical in a lot of ways, um, which sounds weird, this being sort of like a movie in which a woman and a monster fall in love, but it kind of has a lot of cliched characters. Like, the bad guy is super evil, and you have like the black sassy friend, and then you have the gay friend who's like in the closet and sort of sad about it. And then you have the direction by Guillermo del Toro, which the movie looks very pretty, but I feel with him and most of his movies that I don't fully get his style of directing, just in the way he places the camera, the way he blocks the
Mm-hmm.
scenes. It all always seems a little sloppy to me. Like, I can see the seams and the strings in the movies that he makes, and that always takes me out a little bit.
Fair enough. I can understand that. Okay, so the final film is Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and this is probably where it will be a little bit untypical as far as Oscar previews or whatever go, because I know you aren't super high on it, and I'm definitely not high on it, and I don't know. I just, to me, I felt like I would read a lot of the reviews about this movie, and people talk about there being this sense of catharsis about it. And I
Mm,
feel like the reason why this movie did so well is that it taps into this sense of like, the sense of rage and anger that a lot of people have. And I'm not saying that's not justified, but there's a lot in this movie that to me was, I talked to my review about it being sort of voyeuristic, of people like
hmm,
living the, like being able to get this sort of rage out at the middle America, at the sort of Trump voter type character, and you can just beat the tar out of them, and connecting with that sense of like anger, and that was a big theme to me of the movie, was like
hmm,
just raw rage, and I to me that wasn't interesting or insightful or helpful. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was very upsetting at times when character, like, there's a point where a character is thrown out of a window and beat to a bloody pulp for no reason. He hasn't done anything, and I didn't understand why that was funny or insightful or dramatic, or I didn't like it. I didn't like the ending. I didn't think it was earned. I didn't think it worked. I didn't like the fact that the Frances McDormand character is like assaulting teenagers for, I guess doesn't like them. I didn't think that was funny. I didn't like it. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. I didn't think it was good. But these kind of dark comedies just typically aren't my thing. So, I think that's part of it. But anyway, I didn't like it.
That's interesting. I also don't like it, but I think in some ways we agree on the reasons why, and in others we don't. The question of this being an angry movie and being a cathartic movie is definitely a part that I don't fully understand. Because if I'm being honest, I am one of those people who's very angry about a lot of this stuff. But I feel like this movie doesn't really give you a thoughtful catharsis about that, because you think, like, the premise of the movie is this angry woman who wants revenge, but the movie isn't really about her after a point. I feel like it totally gives over to the Sam Rockwell character who plays this cop, and sort of like his personal redemption from a sort of like a bigoted bully into a more a person who wants to be redeemed or whatever. And I don't feel that the movie truly earns all of that, because I feel it's a movie that wants to be shocking in a lot of ways and wants to be complicated in a lot of ways. It wants to be morally ambiguous, but it doesn't. So it just piles on all these things that happen and all these characters doing terrible things just so that we feel conflicted about rooting for any of them, without really thinking about the characters themselves. I feel like there's so many moments when characters do things, and you have, like, you talk about the bloody window. I mean, the guy who gets thrown out the window and whatever, and you don't really get why people are doing the things that they're doing, except that the script requires them to do them. So I think it's a movie that I think in theory I might have gone behind it if it was better made. Like, if the script had been more interesting and thoughtful and truly thought about who these characters were. And it was interested in something else rather than just being shocking and starting a conversation that it doesn't really start, because and there's so many characters. Other than even the Frances McDormand character, all the female characters feel like they're just being used to move the plot forward. None of them really feel like they have that much personality or thought to them, especially like there's two dumb blonde characters in the movie. And I feel like that's just indicative of how these characters operate. And after a while, the Frances McDormand character isn't even the focus of the movie anymore. And you have also the Black characters feel the same way, with not much personality and just there to complicate things. So very frustrating movie. I am disappointed that it's getting so much love from critics and from awards bodies, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. I have it at 111.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty low. Pretty low. I think it's appropriate.
There you go. Okay, so let's talk real quick about these different categories. So director, we have Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, Jordan Peele for Get Out, Greta Gerwig, Lady Bird, Paul Thomas Anderson, Phantom Thread, Guillermo del Toro for The Shape of Water.
Yes.
So your overall thoughts?
My overall thoughts is, I think that this director lineup is probably my favorite category of the year in terms of the people who got nominated. I was expecting Michael McDonough from Three Billboards to get nominated. The fact that he didn't it relieves me, because I feel like his direction is so sloppy and so ineffective that I'm happy that he didn't make it. That also means that Three Billboards might not win the Best Picture award now that he's not nominated for directing. Usually you need to be nominated in both to win. So that makes me happy. I'm also happy that Paul Thomas Anderson made it in, because I think Phantom Thread is such a interesting movie, and not necessarily the kind of movie that gets nominated for Oscars, just in terms of how weird and sort of strange it is in so many ways. Obviously, I'm happy for Greta Gerwig and Jordan Peele. I love the fact that we have women and Black nominees. Nolan and Del Toro, I understand when they're there. They're not my favorites, but you know what? People love their movies, and there's a lot to like in them. So I'm fine with this category. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a strong category, and very excited about Jordan Peele. That was a surprise. I was not expecting him to get nominated, so that was cool. Okay, so actor in the leading role: Timothée Chalamet, Call Me by Your Name; Daniel Day-Lewis, Phantom Thread; Daniel Kaluuya, Get Out; Gary Oldman, Darkest Hour; and Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel Esquire. And I think the big surprise here is, at least for me, was Daniel Kaluuya, which I'm thrilled about, because I think he was very good in the role that was required of him.
Absolutely. I think he's my favorite in the category. And I'm excited that he got nominated, because, you know, it's a performance in a sort of movie that they don't nominate. And it's a performance that doesn't get nominated in so many ways. Young actors usually don't get a lot of attention. Horror movies don't get a lot of attention. Unknown, basically, actors. He was not a famous star before the movie came out. So I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, me too.
I'm also happy for Timothée, since young actors, he's the third youngest actor to be nominated in this category ever. And so it's good that the Academy is looking for diversity in different, not just in, you know, in every way possible, looking at younger actors and, you know, different races, different genders. It's cool. I think the elephant in the room is no James Franco, who was getting a lot of buzz for Disaster Artist until he got he was outed as one of these sexual harassers, or he got a scandal in the papers, and it seems like it came just at the right time for him to not get nominated. So that's interesting, I think.
I think that he deserved it. I'm not saying he's a good person, but I do think his performance was really good. I liked it. So I would have picked him. It's a good. I mean, I think Gary Oldman seems like a lock. It's not who I would pick, but
me either.
Okay, so actress in a leading role. We have Sally Hawkins, Shape of Water; Frances McDormand, Three Billboards; Margot Robbie for I, Tonya; Saoirse Ronan, Lady Bird; Meryl Streep, The Post. Pretty good list. I didn't love I, Tonya. I had issues with it, but she was good.
Same here in I, Tonya. I do think she was good. Even Frances McDormand, in a movie that I don't really like, I do love her in general. So I can't complain with this category. These 5 women seemed like they were going to be the nominees, and they ended up being the nominees. So not a lot of surprises there, but I think that's well deserved. It's a good lineup.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Frances McDormand is probably going to win at this point. And I want to say, not my favorite performance of hers. I think she did a much better sort of angry woman role in the HBO miniseries Olive Kitteridge, which I think is the best performance she has ever done, and one of the best performances I have ever seen anyone do. So if you have an HBO subscription and you get a couple hours to kill, Olive Kitteridge and HBO, it's an amazing miniseries, and Frances McDormand is incredible in it. I recommend it to everyone.
I love Frances McDormand. I love Fargo. I think that she's one of my favorite characters.
Yes, she's great in it.
But actually, I also really like her for something totally different in the children's movie called Madeline. She's so funny as the headmistress. She's great. Anyway.
Oh, that's great. I've never seen that. Yeah, but I bet she's great.
Yeah, it's really cute. Okay, so actor in a supporting role is William Dafoe in The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson in Three Billboards, Richard Jenkins, The Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer in All the Money in the World, Sam Rockwell in Three Billboards. So I think that this is fine group of nominees. I don't think I would pick, and I haven't seen Florida Project, but I wouldn't pick any of them for this category if it was just me. But and I haven't seen The Shape of Water, so I guess I haven't seen two out of these movies. So, but I mean, I think Christopher Plummer was great, and he was definitely the best part about the movie. But I wouldn't pick it as much as I love him.
Yeah, I think this is a total snooze fest. This category is my least favorite of the lineups. I do love Willem Dafoe. I would be incredibly happy if he manages to get nominated, but it seems unlikely since the Florida Project, this is its only nomination. I was expecting it to show up in Best Picture or something else, and I'm a little sad it didn't because I love that movie. Willem Dafoe's great, but the other nominees, give me a break. All these folks are just like phoning it in. Christopher Plummer, I mean, kudos to him for doing it in such a short, time period, redoing the whole movie. But come on, that performance, I could have like emailed that performance.
Yeah, I mean, I love Christopher Plummer, but yeah, agreed. I mean, he's the best part of the movie, though, I think.
Yeah, it's a bad movie.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite. It was too boring for me. Okay. Actress in a supporting role, we have Mary J. Blige, Mudbound, Allison Janney, I, Tonya, Leslie Manville, Phantom Thread, Laurie Metcalf, Lady Bird, and Octavia Spencer for The Shape of Water. The only one of these that was, I guess, I felt like I hadn't heard buzz on was Octavia Spencer. That surprised me.
I think I'm not too surprised because Shape of Water did so well and got nominated everywhere, basically. But her role doesn't have much to it. She's just basically like the best friend character. And, Octavia Spencer is a great actress, but it's kind of weird that it's kind of frustrating, I guess, that she keeps getting these roles that don't have that much to them.
Yeah.
And she's gotten nominated for a couple of them already. I feel like Hidden Figures, she's got a couple great moments in it, but
right.
I don't know. I wish they would give her some more stuff to do. Like, this lady is such a great actress. She could play something else than just like a maid or, a janitor.
Yeah. I'm tired of seeing her as this like the sassy black lady. Like
from the 60s. She's been nominated for 3 60s movies already. Come on. Bring the woman to the 21st century.
Yeah. I mean, I think Snowpiercer was a nice at least that she got to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she's great in that movie. Yeah. More of that, please.
Right. I think Allison Janney will probably win, which is fine. And I have to say I'm kind of excited because then both the parents and Juno will be Oscar winners. Because I love it.
I mean, this is the tragedy of this year for me, is that I love Allison Janney usually, but this year is forcing me to root against her just because I love Laurie Metcalf's performance so much more. And Allison Janney and I, Tonya, I feel like it's not that great of a performance. I feel like it's kind of a one-note character. She's so cartoony and whatever, whereas Metcalf is really bringing all of the layers and all of the everything.
We've seen that like toxic mother so many times. I feel like that it's not that interesting to me. Whereas Laurie Metcalf character, I completely agree, is a very layered character, an interesting character, has all these sides to her. So I agree. Okay, so the writing, original screenplay is The Big Sick, which is so sad. That movie deserved, I think, more than it got. But The Big Sick, Get Out, Lady Bird, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards.
This is a pretty, I think, it's a solid list. It's kind of the movies that I expected to get nominated.
Yeah.
It's a good lineup, I guess. I'm a little surprised that Phantom Thread didn't get in just because it did so well in the other categories. I would have expected it to show up here. But other than that, I think this is pretty solid. I will be rooting for Get Out and Lady Bird to pull the win. The Big Sick would be a nice story, but I feel like it's not likely to get it since this is its only nomination. So I'm really going to pull for the other two to crack it.
I mean, I would be so excited about The Big Sick because I do think it's the best screenplay of the year, but yeah, I agree that it's not likely to win, but oh well. So writing adapted screenplay of Call Me by Your Name, The Disaster Artist, Logan, Molly's Game, and Mudbound. So I haven't seen I haven't seen 3 out of 5 of these movies. But Logan, that's pretty significant that it got nominated as a genre that typically isn't recognized at all, except for visual effects. So that's cool. And I really liked The Disaster Artist. I thought it was really good. And Call Me by Your Name is good. So
I'd recommend Mudbound. I think Mudbound is great, and I'm happy to see it got a couple nominations. I haven't seen Molly's Game. Logan, weird, right? That like a superhero comic book sort of movie got nominated in writing. I wouldn't have expected Logan to be the first movie to crack that. I don't know. I guess it was a thin category this year, and they had to fill it out somehow. I'm not the biggest Logan fan. I know a lot of people love the movie, but I don't know. Strange. It seems weird to me that Logan is an Oscar nominee and Wonder Woman didn't get anything.
I know. Yeah. But I'm kind of glad in a way, because you have all these people who would immediately be like, "Oh, it's so overrated, Wonder Woman, blah blah blah," and I don't know.
Well, I didn't expect it to get into Best Picture or anything, but I thought that certainly some of this technical awards, like sound or costume, something like that, it could have gotten. I was surprised it didn't get anything.
Yeah, because I loved it. It was very special to me. So, okay, so cinematography, you have Blade Runner 2049, Roger Deakins, the forever loser. Hopefully you might change that. But Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Mudbound, and The Shape of Water. And I haven't seen 2 of these, but I think that their Blade Runner 2049, despite flaws, is beautiful cinematography. And Darkest Hour, we already talked about, have good cinematography. Dunkirk, also great cinematography. So I have no complaints.
I'm really happy. This is my favorite nomination probably of the year. Rachel Morrison, who did the cinematography for Mudbound, and is the first woman cinematographer to ever get nominated for the Oscars.
That's cool.
So and I think that's very well deserved, because the movie is beautiful. And if I were a voter, I would probably vote for it just because the cinematography is so great.
I was surprised that The Shape of Water got nominated for this, because I hadn't heard anything about its cinematography. But
oh, really? I think it's got a shot to win. I mean, talking about Roger Deakins, who's been nominated, I don't think 10, 11 times, I don't know, and never won. This seemed like it might be his year, but I think Dunkirk and Shape of Water are going to give it a run for its money, because, Blade Runner, we'll see.
Interesting. Okay. So costume design, we have Beauty and the Beast, Darkest Hour. It's so funny. In the costume design, there's like 3-4 women who've won like 90%, like Colleen Atwood, Jacqueline Duran. Like there's it's just kind of funny. They rule the roost. But she has 2.
Jacqueline Duran, who's double nominee this year.
It's an exclusive club. But Phantom Thread, Mark Bridges, The Shape of Water, and Victoria and Abdul. I feel like there is a snub. I mean, I would have liked to see Wonder Woman, but I do think that The Beguiled deserved a nomination here. Those costumes were beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I don't know how close it got. I'm a little surprised with this list, because usually the costume designers, they tend to go for big costumes, and they're not afraid of going for movies that are not up for Best Picture. So The Beguiled seemed like a possibility. The Greatest Showman, or something like, I don't know, I, Tonya, Wonder Woman, all seemed like possibilities to me. And they ended up with things like Darkest Hour and Shape of Water, which have fine costumes, but I don't think they're as flashy as this category usually gets.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I do think that Phantom Thread, this is a lock.
And I do think that I'm still a little bitter that Beauty and the Beast gets nominated for costume design, because all those costumes already existed in the animated movie. It was just a matter of recreating them.
Yeah, and we're like recreating them worse.
Yeah,
Like, the yellow
exactly.
dress was way worse than in the
Yeah.
movie. Agreed. Okay, so film editing. We have Baby Driver, Dunkirk, I, Tonya, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards. Uh, I think it's a good list. I think that if it was, in my opinion, I would give this to Baby Driver. I think it was really well edited. But
Um, yeah, I'm not crazy about the editing in any of these movies. I think it's kind of cool though, and a little strange that I, Tonya got nominated here.
yeah,
I'm guessing it's because of all the ice skating and double, like
oh
stunt
yeah.
work that's in the movie that it got in. Um, so that's interesting, I guess.
I mean, I didn't love Baby Driver like everybody else, but I did think it was very well edited personally. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, it. I think that probably this will be one that Dunkirk will take home.
yeah, I think so too.
Okay, so makeup, hairstyle. This is another weird. We have The Darkest Hour, Victoria and Abdul, and Wonder. Um,
Yeah.
and
Um,
so yeah,
looks like Darkest Hour is gonna win it in a cakewalk.
yeah,
Have you seen Victoria and Abdul?
yeah. I was not a fan.
Yeah.
I
Is the costume good? I mean, the makeup.
I don't know. I mean, it's just like period makeup. I wasn't blown away by the makeup, but
Yeah,
okay.
it's probably good in because of the hairstyling. It's probably some
Yeah,
hairstyling stuff in there.
the hairstyling was pretty good, pretty good. So,
All
um,
right.
so music. We have Dunkirk, it's Hans Zimmer, Phantom Thread, Johnny Greenwood, The Shape of Water, Alexander Desplat, Star Wars: Last Jedi, John Williams, Three Billboards, is Carter Burwell. So, pretty good
Hmm.
list. It was a good year for scores in general. I thought I really liked the score for War for the Planet of the Apes, Michael Giacchino, and I also really liked the Coco score.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. So, but it's a good list. It was a very competitive category.
Yeah, I'm very happy Johnny Greenwood got nominated for Phantom Thread. Not just
Yeah.
because Phantom Thread has such a great score, but because he's done some really great work in the past. There Will Be Blood and The Master, both
Yeah.
great scores that didn't get nominated. So it's happy to see him
Mhm.
finally get in.
I'm
Um,
surprised that Call Me by Your Name was not nominated. I thought that was beautiful
um,
music.
yeah, but I think it's because the music wasn't written for the film. They're all classical
Oh,
pieces, so that's
oh,
why it was not eligible. Yeah, but it's. I mean, the music is amazing in that movie, but of course, couldn't get in for original score.
oh, okay. I didn't realize that. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So then we have music original song. We have Mighty River from Mudbound, The Mystery of Love from Call Me by Your Name, Remember Me from Coco, Stand Up for Something from Marshall, and This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. So that Marshall one came out of, I didn't expect that. I never heard of
Hmm.
that. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah, me either. But it's written by Diane Warren, who gets nominated a lot in this category, so I'm not that surprised.
So I think that Remember Me is the best, and I loved it, and I thought it was so good, and yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I think it has a good chance of winning, and that would be another Oscar for the Lopez's. That'd be pretty exciting.
I am very excited about Mystery of Love.
Mm,
Sufjan Stevens is an artist who I really like. His music is very lovely, and I think it's cool that he's an Oscar nominee now.
yeah.
I do think Remember Me has the best shot of winning the Oscar,
Hmm.
although look out for here, because here I come, The Greatest Showman, This Is Me. The Greatest Showman is making bank,
Yeah.
and This Is Me, written by the guys from La La Land, so we know they
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see.
I
The
think people will be upset if The Greatest Showman wins the song.
Not in Utah. They won't be upset. They will be very excited here. I guarantee you.
I guess so, yeah.
People love this movie here. I knew that they would. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh man, this movie's gonna be a huge hit here," and it was. And people love it. So, and I
Yeah.
love it. I actually really do like it. I know it has its flaws, but I think it's entertaining. So there you go. Um. Anyway, all right. So production design. We have Beauty and the Beast, Blade Runner 2049, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, and The Shape of Water.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty solid list, I guess.
Yeah.
And So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have put Beauty and the Beast, but it was good, I guess. Production design. Blade Runner 2049 would probably be the one out of these that I would pick because it was beautiful. Like it looked really cool.
Yeah, I'm also don't have a lot to say about this category.
Yeah.
I agree with Beauty and the Beast. Not a huge fan of those sets. Also, just a recreation of the cartoon version.
Right.
So,
Okay, so sound mixing, we have Baby Driver, Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk, The Shape of Water, and Star Wars The Last Jedi. It's a good list. I would probably, if it's just as far as the one I think is the best, I would pick Star Wars The Last Jedi for sound mixing.
mm.
But I think Dunkirk will probably win, and it's good. It deserves it.
Yeah, I agree with the Dunkirk part. I think this sound mixing and sound editing, I think, go in both Dunkirk. And it's also interesting that we have the exact same lineup in sound mixing and sound
Oh
editing
yeah.
because it's the first time that that's ever happened. It usually has at least a couple of different nominees.
Yeah, there's usually some wonky one in sound editing or mixing.
Yeah.
Like last year with 13 hours in sound
Mm-hmm.
editing. Or a lot of times like a Transformers movie or something really weird will get in there. But yeah, I mean, I think that Baby Driver is the best sound editing, and that the way I thought it was really well done as far as the editing. But I think that Dunkirk will probably win.
Yeah.
So visual effects, we have Blade Runner 2049, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Kong Skull Island, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and War for the Planet of the Apes. And I really think that this will be a franchise win for the War for the Planet of the Apes.
Huh.
I think that
Interesting.
the visual effects are so good in that, and it's really just been groundbreaking what it has accomplished. And I don't know. I think that none of the movies have won for visual effects, despite them being pretty amazing.
Hmm.
And I really think that it will win.
That's interesting. I have a couple of theories about this category. The first one is that I think a couple years ago, Ex Machina won for Best Visual Effects.
Mm-hmm.
And people were shocked because, it's a movie. I mean, there was this robot character who was created with computers, but everything else in the movie, there weren't a lot of visual effects in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this category, the people who vote in it, the visual effects artists, sort of saw that and decided to make it very known that they don't want movies like that to get rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they want movies with a lot of visual effects to be the nominees. And that's why we have Kong Skull Island and Guardians of the Galaxy over things like The Shape of Water, which is nominated everywhere, but it has very few visual effects, and it was expected to get nominated for visual effects, but it didn't. Same for Dunkirk, which has a lot of practical effects, but not a lot of computer effects,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So that's why we have Kong Skull Island as a Academy Award nominee.
Right.
Um, so that's my first
I
theory, and I
mean,
think that's interesting that they're reacting in that way.
mm,
That they want, I mean, they're the ones who know how visual effects work. So I
yeah.
guess if they feel like movies with most visual effects are the ones that should be rewarded, then I guess it's up to them.
I mean, I didn't like Kong Skull Island at all, but I did think Kong looked pretty good. I mean, it's pretty like if you're just because you're not voting on the best movie, you're just voting on the visual effects. And it had pretty good visual effects.
Yeah, I guess my struggle is that I feel like we've come to a point where all these visual effects look, the quality of them looks pretty it's uniform to me. Like I feel like this visual effects in Kong and Guardians and whatever else, they all look just fine. I feel like in the past we had this category we used to reward sort of like achievements or groundbreaking stuff, like things that we hadn't seen before. And I feel,
Mhm.
like when Jurassic Park first came out, or
Mhm.
something really impressive like Death Becomes Her won visual effects because of that scene in which Meryl's head goes all the way around her head and things like that. And now we have so many visual effects and so many computers that it just, I don't know, it's kind of overwhelming and it feels kind of redundant to give out this award to
Well,
me.
the only movie that was like that this year was Valerian, and the fact it didn't get nominated is ridiculous. I
Yeah,
mean,
Valerian, and I would say Okja as well, which has an amazing CGI character.
yeah, yeah.
Um, And also, sorry, and my second theory is that I think that War for the Planet of the Apes is absolutely not going to win this category. I think this is going to go to Blade Runner 2049 easily because it's the one that's nominated across the board. And, you know, and two Planet of the Apes movies have been nominated before. Twice people thought that they were going to win, and they lost to movies that were nominated in other categories. Interstellar and Hugo. So I think it's going to be the same thing again. Blade Runner.
Interesting. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
They love in the Oscars though to give sort of franchise. We're rewarding the whole franchise, kind of Lord of the Ringsy kind of a thing, like for your accomplishment, your achievement. So that's my.
I guess so.
That's my.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, so animated feature, we have The Boss Baby, The Breadwinner, Coco, Ferdinand, and Loving Vincent. And everybody knows my feelings on The Boss Baby. I don't understand it. I don't like it. It didn't work for me. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't like it. There you go. But The Breadwinner, I love. Coco, I love. It was my favorite movie of the year last year. I loved it. Ferdinand is sweet and cute. It was fine. And then Loving Vincent, I didn't really like, even though it was an artistic achievement, so I don't have a problem with it being nominated. But the story didn't work for me. I didn't. I don't know. I didn't like it in the end, unfortunately. But there you go. So I think that Coco will win. I would be shocked if something did, but it might be just to pick on me, the Boss Baby would win. But anyway,
yeah, I'm happy that you saved this kind of for the end, because this is where all your followers are gonna turn against me when I say that I absolutely love The Boss Baby, and it's my second favorite movie in this category. Yes, I like it better than Coco. And if I had a ballot, though, I would vote for The Breadwinner. I think that movie is really great. And we talked about it in this podcast so people can listen to that conversation.
If The Breadwinner were to win, I would be thrilled.
That would be amazing.
So exciting, but
it has not a chance anywhere. Coco's gonna take this. Also, like one of the foregone conclusions, I think. There's no way something else wins.
Agreed. Okay. So foreign language film, we have Fantastic Woman, The Insult, Loveless, On Body and Soul, and The Square. I have not seen any of these, so I don't really have an opinion.
I have only seen The Square, which I thought wouldn't get nominated despite having a lot of people talking about it, because it's such an awkward black comedy sort of movie. It's very cringy. I'm not the hugest fan of that movie. I feel like it's kind of a pointless movie in some ways.
Isn't it just a comedy?
No, it's a dark comedy about sort of this guy in Sweden who is like an art director at a museum. And so it's kind of a story about like the hypocrisy of the art world and sort of Europe's the way the art world and Europe in general looks at like the problems of the world, kind of. So it's kind of a satire, I guess, in that way. I don't know. I feel like I get where it's coming from, but it doesn't fully get to the most interesting places. I am excited for A Fantastic Woman. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm really excited to see it. It's a movie from Chile. By a director, Sebastian Lelio, who made a movie called Gloria a couple of years ago, which is great. And it's going to be remade with Julianne Moore this year. And this is his new movie, Fantastic Woman. I think it's coming out pretty soon.
I just wish that the Academy would be more open to anime. Like they just, unless it's Studio Ghibli, they won't nominate either for animation or for, like a foreign film or for whatever. They just don't. I don't know. They just don't like, no matter how strong the movies are, whether it's Your Name or the Silent Voice, they just won't nominate them unless it's Studio Ghibli, which is frustrating to me. They're a foreign film, just like anything else. Why couldn't they be considered?
I think some of it depends on, I think in the foreign film category, each country submits one movie. And so if they're not submitted by Japan, then they can't compete in foreign language. And I think
Okay.
they've submitted some anime in the past, but they've never gotten nominated.
Yeah.
Same in the animation. In the animation category, you can submit whatever movie you want as long as it's animated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that anime has a pretty shoddy track record in that category.
Yeah, it's frustrating to me. Fair enough. Okay, so last category we'll talk about is documentary feature. We have Abacus, Small Enough to Jail, Faces Places, Icarus, The Last Men in Aleppo, and Strong Island. Of course, I am very, very furious that Step didn't even make the short list. Ridiculous. One of the most, it won the Inspiration Prize at Sundance last year. One of the most well-reviewed movies of 2017, has like a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's a great movie. It's an inspirational movie. It's about these, black girls in Baltimore and them actually like getting to college and the community. It's like a positive movie about community and about I just so frustrated to me that it didn't even make the short list. I mean, ridiculous. But I am excited. I'm going to see Faces Places this week. It's coming to the Tower Theater in Utah, so I'm very excited
That's
to see it.
cool. Faces Places is one of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah.
It's a very sweet, sort of fun, and touching movie. I'm very happy that it got nominated. I am happy that it seems like it has a shot at the win. I haven't seen most of these nominees. The only other one that I've seen is Icarus, which is available on Netflix, and it's about the sort of like the Olympics Russian doping scandal that Russia was kind of encouraging its athletes to dope and then changing the lab results so they could still compete at the Olympics. So it's a timely movie because Russia has now been banned from the Olympics twice in a row because of this. It's not a very good movie though. It's kind of, I don't know. I feel about documentary that if I can get the same experience from watching the documentary by reading an article on the newspaper, then I'm not that interested in it.
I agree
And
with
that's
you.
what Icarus feels to me. Faces
One,
Places, on the other hand, I'm kissing my fingers like a chef.
excuse me. Well, the Academy loves nominating, and the documentary branch is notoriously lame, and they tend to refuse to nominate movies that are bold and different, and in favor of movies that are sort of talking heads
Or about issues,
about some subject. And I mean, it's again and again, whether it's Hoop Dreams or so many great Gates of Heaven, so many great documentaries that were never nominated. I mean, I think Errol Morris has only been nominated once, which is ridiculous, and so it's frustrating to me. And
though they've done a lot to change that. I have to say, like that's the thing. Like you say, that back in the 80s, 90s, it happened a lot. It was very frustrating, but it seems like they've done quite a bit to change those rules. Faces Places is definitely not the sort of nominee that they would have had in the past. And from what I understand, even though I haven't seen it yet, Strong Island, which is one of this year's nominees, is also very unique and unlike your typical talking head documentary. And some of the nominees lately have been more daring and interesting.
At least the Al Gore one didn't get nominated. That would have really, I mean, he already won once.
He already got one, so.
Yeah, he already got one once for standing in front of a PowerPoint for 2 hours. Oh my gosh. So there you go. That is all the features. We didn't talk about any of the shorts, but that is everything. That's all the categories. So it's an interesting group of movies. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm not looking forward to the actual broadcast. I think it's going to be super annoying. So I'll probably just watch and fast forward. Probably just DVR and then fast forward, because I don't need to be lectured to by Hollywood. So anyway, it'll be very interesting to see who wins, and we'll have to you definitely follow us on Twitter and other things. You'll hear our responses and reactions to that. So thanks so much for joining me to talk about
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be here as always.
Oh, well, thanks. And so where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter, Coco Hits New York. You can also read my blog, which is cocohitsnewyork.wordpress.com. And before I go, I gotta say, when the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. I'm gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. Oh, this is me.
Very good. I'm very moved. I'm touched. Okay, so so yeah, you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media and at 54 Disney Reviews on my blog. And you can subscribe to Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. So check that out. And thanks again. And we will. It'll be fun to see what happens, and we'll have to talk again soon about it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.